Welcome, everyone, to the Tropical Wave Painting, sponsored by Feasterville Library. This evening will be recorded as usual, and I put it up on my YouTube channel, unlisted at first, for all of the registrants, and then usually about a month or so after it gets it basically becomes live on YouTube. But if you have the link, you will be able to view it. So it's basically like a private setting that the public can't see, but it is there. And then, like I said, it becomes public. Probably I usually wait about a month or so. Um, Okay, so we're going to get started with this. I'm going to just want to kind of show it up close a bit. There's a lot of texture going on. And we create the texture by basically using our brush, using the flat brush on the side, and we're going to create lots of colors in here. The same with the back too. So it looks more complicated than it is. I promise. I promise. The background is a gradient going from red, orange, and yellow all the way down to like a light yellow. We have some purple mountains, or sort of like more like purple sandy mountains here in the back. And I know that doesn't really look purpley, but it's purple on top of orange. And then we also have tiny purple palm trees in the background. And then we've got some green going into the ocean over here. And we will be mixing these two colors. We'll be mixing the yellow and the blue to get just a little bit of green, since there's just a little bit. And then the red and the blue to get the purple. So let's get started. So, as I mentioned earlier in the chat, you want to make sure that you are painting this in landscape mode. So again, this would be sort of upright. So we're going to turn it so that it is lengthwise. And let's get started. Let me just adjust the camera one more time and kind of move my painting up. Let me see. Can you guys see the top here? Here we go. I had to just adjust one more time. Okay, so now what we're going to do first is we're actually going to draw the wave first. So we're going to start down at the bottom left lower corner of the canvas, and we're going to curve around for our wave. So it's kind of like it is framing the picture. Let me do this a little darker so you can see it. So we're going to curve that around, going upward toward the top of our canvas, and then we're going to curve back, literally making like a curl, like so. And we're going to come back around. Let me just move this one more time. There we go. That's the view I was looking for. And we're going to come right back up to the top as we curve our wave around, like so. And then the top, basically this is the entire wave here. So, okay, now once we do that, we're now going to create the horizon line. And so you want to make sure actually that your wave, the curving part of the wave, is not so low like I just did. You want to make it a little bit higher so that you are able to still see the rest of in the middle of your background. So I'm going to actually make this a little bit more over to the right so that I'm able to see So like that. It should be a little bit more of a slant with this area, and then you curve, and it's a little bit flat as it goes into the curl of the tidal wave. And so once you have that, we can then create the part where the water is. So sort of a straight line, a little bit curvy. And then we're going to create our island in the background, which is going to be sort of like two pyramid type shapes that go, right into the wave comes right in front of it. I'm going to go really close with the drawing here. And then next, we're going to draw our palm trees in the background here. And so they start off basically with two curves, basically on this left part of the beach. And then what I like to do is create basically like a curved X for the top parts, because then we're going to come out and we're going to create fine little palms with our paint. So we don't need to actually draw those in. Oh, nice, John Paul. Beautiful. Oh, very nice. I love the curve of your wave. That's beautiful. All right, and guess what? Now it's time to paint. Everything is done with the paint. This is a really fun, free one. And I think I say this all the time, but they all come out so differently. I love it. But we're going to start off first with the sky. So we're going to start off first with red up at the top. And so basically, we're going to create lots of red at the top. We're going to go down till about halfway with the red, but let's get started with our red. So I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit, and here is my palette here. So again, we're going behind the wave. We're doing the sky right now. And so we're going to grab our red and we're going to paint at the top of our canvas in a straight line. We're going to go right up to the wave and then even lower here. So we're probably going to go maybe about right here. And I can see in my other painting that I have more of the sky on this side. And so what I might do is just adjust my wave one more time to make a little more of the sky peeking through. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I'm going to just make my wave a little bit higher so that I can just bring a little bit of the red through that tidal wave. And it's just a little bit, so just like right there. Now you can bring the red down as far as you want, We're going to be bringing it down a little bit farther than where we need it because we want to be able to mix our orange in with it. So this is our first layer, and we're going to be actually adding more color in there. But first, we're going to create that red. And then right from there, we're actually going to go to our orange. So we're going to make a gradient going all the way down. And this time, this orange is going to go through almost all the way down to your sky till about right here. And we're going to lighten up that orange as we continue going down to the bottom of where our horizon is. And again, you can make it lighter, even lighter than what I'm doing if you want, but we want to get that orange on there first. I did. I rinsed my brush. I probably should have said that. I apologize. Yep, I rinsed my brush and added orange, and then I'm going to rinse my brush and add yellow. And again, this is just sort of a rough first layer of these colors because then we want to do more blending into each other. So you can add your yellow all the way down to where your water is, and we're going to be going near our palm trees. And I forgot to mention, so I am using my flat brush. You can switch in between your flat brush and your detail brush. But here is our first layer of those three colors. And we're going to work upward in the sense of when you meet the two colors, or I should say where the two colors meet, you're going to take the lighter color, so meaning the yellow with the orange, and you're going to add it into the orange right above it so that it blends. And you can go into a bit of the yellow even. And then keep moving that brush into the orange as you're going upward. And then start adding orange. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going from light to dark, and then we'll come back down into the yellow to add some white to the yellow so that it's sort of a lemony yellow. So remember, we're going from left to right with our color. And at the same time, we are also blending where the colors meet each other. And I like to have them dry a little bit My paint is a little bit um, sort of a little bit transparent. It's older paint, but I'm going to use it. So I have to do another layer. So I'm starting back up with the red here, top. And again, bringing it down into the orange. A little more here. And then literally bring some of that red into the orange where it's meeting up with the red. So then you're going to get sort of a, what I call a tomato, kind of like a tomato red, which is orangey red. It's one of my favorite colors. I think it's a really neat color. Not very easy to find. I didn't even know that it existed in clothing until, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And I think I have a turtleneck that's like a tomato red. Like, what is this color? This is amazing. Okay, so we're going to keep now working some sort of like stripes in on top of these colors to make them blend. So as you can see, they're starting to blend a bit more, but I'm going to go back in, and as my paint is drying, I'm going to add some more orange to make it a little thicker. And then what we're going to do is on top of each of the colors, we're going to add the lighter color, usually. So for instance, you can see I'm really blending in the orange next to the red. But now, in order to make it look like it's not so choppy, I'm going to go up into the red, and I'm going to start streaking with the orange a little bit by using the side of my brush, my flat brush. I'm just kind of going back and forth. So I'm just gonna show that. Let me see if I can get it, the light on it a little more. So you see how my red has some orange in it, and even above. And I'm even going to go up and add some yellow in there. You can use your flat brush at this point, or if you want, you can start to use your other brush too. But we're going to add clouds on top of this, and we're going to be definitely using our detail brush for that. So I'm just going back up and making it a little more red right at the top here of the canvas. So basically you're kind of trying to get a little bit of a streaky sky with these colors. And then we're going to do the same thing as we are going down into the yellow. So we did one layer, but we're going to pick up our yellow again. and meet up again with the orange and add some kind of streaky parts into the orange where it meets. So do you see that there? How I'm kind of adding some yellow right above, very impressionistic like. Oh, I think Audrey just came on. Okay. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Anita. Anita, you need to let your libraries know that last session and this session, it took me this long just to get in. I just wait and wait. First, I can't find the link. So you need to ask them to help out. I'm sorry I'm
Okay.
late.
I will I'm gonna write them and let
Yeah,
them know.
yeah, because usually in the past, it's so easy, just click it on. But in the past two sessions and this tonight too, 20 minutes, I just can't get in.
Oh, that is so strange.
Yeah.
Let me write them and then get back to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm in now, though. Thank you. But Anita,
Yay.
previously it was so easy to get into your class to just click on, but it's been
Yeah.
hard. It's really hard.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry to hear that. I will we'll try to figure out what the issue is.
Okay. Oh, you already started. See, I started at 6:30 and I couldn't get in. It's okay. I'll get a recording
Oh,
though, right? I'll get a
absolutely.
recording. Okay. Thank you. I'll just
Absolutely.
watch then. Thank you,
Okay, you're
Anita.
welcome. And I just recopied the supplies in the chat in case you needed those. So we're back down to ward where the yellow and the orange meet, and we're just creating some more yellow in the orange, right where the orange and the yellow colors meet. So you can see I'm sort of kind of dotting on using my brush to go across. Ooh, absolutely. Do it color for the clouds. Yes, yes, we are about to do the clouds as well. Absolutely. So we're going to go into the yellow and we're going to start adding white. And then we're going to add the clouds on top of all these colors. So we're starting to get lighter. And so what we want to do is mix some yellow with some white and make like a very light yellow. This is for the bottom part of um, our sky. So again, I just mixed up some white and yellow, and now it's getting really light right above where the water is. You know, if you want to even go back in with some white on top of your yellow, that might still work if your yellow is still wet. And again, we're going to go all the way across. So it should look like a very light yellow. Let me fix my light here so that you can see the difference. So this should look like almost like a whitish yellow here at the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that lemony yellow and start to streak it through the orange as we're going upward toward the red. And then we're finally going to create the clouds. So again, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of that yellow And we're going to start kind of going across on top of the orange in chunks like this. And we're even going to go up into our red a little bit. So this is that really light yellowish mixed a little with the white. And it helps if your paint is still wet because it's going to look more natural. If it's not wet, you can go back in and add some more orange. So now what I'm doing with my brush is I just went back into the orange and I didn't wash off my brush. So now the colors are sort of melding together. See that? I'm not trying to get rid of all the colors completely, but I want them to kind of mix together when they meet with each other here. So I even went into a little bit of the red using this yellow.
Anita, when you did the orange, did you mix with red and yellow, or did you use orange itself?
We actually used orange itself.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we actually used orange itself. We will mix two colors this evening. We will mix yellow and blue to make a little bit of green that we see in the tropical, well, actually not in the tropical wave. There's no green. There's a little bit of green in that, but it's mostly in this area. And then the other color that we're going to mix is purple. So we're going to use red and blue for the purple. And that is going to be used in the background for the palm trees. So that was a good question. Okay, so now we're going to let the sky dry a little bit. And we're now going to go to our beach back here. And we're going to make that beach orange at first. You can either do this with your larger brush, your flat brush, or you can do it with your round brush. And so we're going to make both of those pyramid shapes at first orange. This is our first layer. And then we're going to be mixing blue and red for, excuse me, for our purple to go on top of this. So basically, our trees have an orange and a purple sort of look to them. But underneath is the orange. Now on the palm trees, it's actually the opposite. We do purple at first, and then we add a little bit of orange to make it look like the sun is sort of glowing. So your next step is now going to be painting your the beach orange, both parts here. And after we complete the first color for the beach, we're actually going to create the clouds in the sky. So John Paul was asking about the clouds. So that is going to be our next step. Oh, wow. Beautiful. Yep, you got it. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, so what we do is we have the background dry a little bit and then we add the clouds on top. So we are now going to create the color for our clouds. And that color at first is going to be that very light yellow that we mixed with our white. So if you need to remix some more, add a little bit of yellow, and then we're going to grab our white. Now, as you can see, I have not been very nice to my white. I was lazily putting my brush in with other colors. You don't want to do that because now I have to try to avoid, because I was being lazy. I've used this paint quite a bit. I was trying to avoid the other colors that I put in there. But basically you want to mix some white with your yellow. And this is going to be our first layer for the clouds. And we're going to be using our detail brush. So we're using that smaller round brush. And I'm going to go up really close for this. Because basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting where the pointy part of the wave is, and we're going to be kind of dotting it in clumps, making it look a bit like a cloud. And we go across toward the wave. So we're making that a little bit lighter. That's the first step. And then the second step is literally using white to make curvy parts of the clouds, and you can really get in there with the white. So you can see that I have some kind of speckles of white here. I'm trying to now make a cloudy part by using a lot of white paint, mostly on the top. See how I'm kind of dotting it on, and I'm almost pretending like I'm making clouds. I'm going a little bit. Oh, so the second color, John Paul, is white. Yep, and you're now you're just going to use white on top of the yellow white. And so you can literally make it look like clouds. You can do some, like another one right underneath, like this. You know, you can do another one kind of on the left side if you want. I'm going to add that to this one. But what I do is I just kind of act like I'm creating a line. And then with a little bit of paint on there, on my brush, I make it a little more transparent. I even sometimes add a little bit of water to my paint. And you may have to go over this again. You know, just think about, fluffy clouds. You can see that I have some texture on here, and I'm going to wait till it dries a little bit because I might come back in and make it a little bit brighter right here. And I'm going to make sort of like a bump to make it look like, the clouds, the fluffy bumps of the clouds. So that's pretty much how we make our clouds. And you could make some other white kind of streaky lines in the sky below it, like this, so it sort of looks a little cloud-like. You know, and then we'll have fun going back later and adding all the foam to that part of the tidal wave. I think that's like my favorite part, like adding the foam. It's so fun. I mean, the whole thing is fun, but I feel like it's really fun. So you're going to let that cloud sit a bit, and you're still going to be now using your detail brush, because now we're going to mix purple to go on top of the orange. And so you're going to want to take some blue and bring it out to create your new color. So I'm taking the edge of my blue, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of red. So I rinse my brush, and I'm going to dip the point in my red and then mix it with the blue. Now it depends what color, how dark you want your purple. You're going to mix more red to get a little bit darker of a purple. And add a little more. And I just add a little tip with my brush at a time, and then I mix it. So see, it's getting more purple. And then I'm going to create very lightly the bottom part of the palm tree. And so basically, if your brush feels like it's too thick and your point keeps not wanting to be a point, I do a trick where I then press my brush onto the plate, and I have the paint on it, and then I roll it and I pull it down so that the point gets made. Literally. So roll it, and there's the point. So as I'm doing it, I'm rolling the brush and pulling it through the paint. And so now I'm going to use that tip, and I'm just going to keep doing that. The other thing is, you can also get a really tiny brush if you have it. So now I'm going to go really close. We make those, we make an X for the first. And the other thing is, you might want to dip your brush, the edge of your brush, into a little bit of water. Just a tiny bit. You don't want it to be watercolor, just like a tiny bit. So we make an X. We're going to do the same on the other one too, but the other palm tree is a little bit more in the background, so it's smaller. And I'm probably going to darken mine up a little bit with just a little more red. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more red to my palm tree. So again, you make an X at the top of the palm tree first. And then when you make that X, ooh, Charlene, that looks beautiful. I see you're fanning it, but your colors are lovely. Very nice. So now what we're going to do is after making that X on each line, you're going to start to make little strokes like this. You're going to make it fluffy. So each line coming from the center, like this. And again, you may have to keep going back and rolling your brush. Okay. And then the one in the back, meaning the palm tree in the back. I'm gonna make really tiny lines. You can even bunch them together a little bit. Ooh, John Paul, that looks amazing. Very nice. Yeah, you got the hang of it. You know, it can be a little bit daunting with, with a small brush, but you're going to take that same purple and now you're going to go on top of the orange of your beach or beaches. So now you're going to paint on top of the orange. Oh, to lift up my camera because I keep bumping into it. Okay. So we're going to paint this purple, the first one, and you want to make sure to make it extend a bit to the left and make it really kind of tiny. And then the one in the back, we're going to actually mix a little bit of black with the purple on both of these, but just towards the top part of where it's like the pyramid. It's sort of the pointy part. So I'll say that again. So we're going to make these both purple, but we're going to mix a little bit of black in on the first one. Sort of outlining it a little bit in the black, but it's not an outline. It's just going to be, a little bit darker. And the same with the second one, we're kind of outlining the top part and the bottom part here. And then we fill in the middle. And we're also going to add just a little more orange on this one right here in the back. So I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of orange while, just like in the middle, so that the orange is kind of showing a little bit through. Like that. Basically what the black is doing, the black mixed with the purple, it's making it so that it looks like a little bit of a shadow. So here I am going back up on top of it and adding just a little more of that darker purple. See that? See how I made a little bit more darker the purple? And then I'm going to do it again. On the tips. Kind of doing a little bit of outlining. Like so. Oh, that's okay. Thanks, Sandy. You'll get the recording. So good to see you. Okay. You're welcome, Sandy. Yep, yep. I put black. I put a little bit of black on there to make it a little bit dark while the purple was wet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got it. Ooh, John Paul, that looks amazing. Oh my gosh. We are ready for the water. So excited for the water. So we're gonna start first. Oh, let me actually move up the camera one more time. We're gonna start first with this part of the water, and we're gonna start with our blue, but we're gonna mix our blue actually, we're not going to mix our blue. I'm sorry. We're going to start with blue. So when you are ready, we are going to paint this part. So this sort of triangle part using our blue. So just a base color of blue. So we're not doing the wave part right now. And you can make the line that separates your sky and your water a little bit wavy. You can make it go up a little on top of your, in front of your beach. Okay. So that is our first layer. And then we're actually going to then start to get into our second part of our tidal wave. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to make curves of color. At first. Now we're going to be repainting over this, but we kind of want to make it look like the wave is curving around. So we're literally making curved lines using just our blue for now. right here. And then you can actually start to kind of use your paint, and as it's running out, like getting lighter on your brush, you want to go in the in-between parts of the curved lines. Now you're probably thinking, well, how am I going to know, that this wave is separated from the background? We're going to leave the white of the canvas for now separating inside this curve. So we're not going to fill that with any color for right now. So as I mentioned, for now, we're just adding this blue and we're going up and down, but curving. And you can see I'm not doing a whole lot in this part here, except I'm taking the color blue and I'm making it lighter by just bringing in some of the paint from the wave part. So we're making it a little bit lighter blue for now because there's a lot of white on there, but you can go in and start to add some blue on the curved part, like so. And so I'm, for now, using the bigger brush, the flat brush. So you can see how, adding all of these colors is going to create, you know, all those beautiful swirls. Swirl is what, that was the word I was looking for. So you're going to keep kind of filling up the space. But again, when it gets to the white part of the canvas, you're going to, almost like you're cleaning your brush, you're going to continue to swipe it in those parts. Now you can add some more paint. And remember to go at the top of your canvas and the bottom of your canvas so that it doesn't look like it's separated. And this is where the fun part happens, the other fun part, because this is where we're going to start mixing our colors. So make sure you're getting all the way, let me move this up a bit. Make sure you're getting into the corner here on the right side, bottom right. So you should have pretty much a blue wave in front of you. And the part on the left where we created the blue should be pretty dry by now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that after you have a lot of the wave over here using just your blue. So we're going to now come back to this part in the background, and we're going to use a combination of our flat brush and our detail brush. And so we're going to mix up a new color. Basically, we're going to mix up blue and a little bit of black so that we get a little bit darker of a blue. We're also going to mix some more red and blue so that we get purple. So right now we're mixing two colors. We're mixing blue with a tinge of black so that it's dark. And then we're mixing blue with some red. So let me have to go grab another black. Excuse me a second. I think it's time to retire some of these old. Oh, that one's all dried out, so I'm not going to use that one. Okay, so again, we've got some black and blue here, and you're going to get kind of like a little bit of like a grayish blue, but you want to make it darker. I'm going to move my orange and stuff here. And then again, you're going to mix up your red and your blue so you get purple. So I'm going to dip into my red here and my purple or my blue. And get purple. And what we're going to do is we're going to first take that purpley blue and we're going to start creating waves. So we're going into the flat part here first. So we're just going to be making, lines, curvy lines with this color going across. And this is where you may decide that you want to use your smaller brush, your detail brush. I use a lot of I go back and forth between the two brushes, just depending. If you want a thinner line, it's easier to kind of use your detail brush. And if you want a little more of a thicker line, you can use the side of your flat brush. So now what we're going to do is we're also going to mix two more colors, and that's going to be the yellow and the blue to get your green, because there is some green in here. So here again, I'm mixing my yellow and blue. And I have a bit of that green, and we're going to put that a little bit in the back, up top, and throughout. So this is how we're going to create all of these colors in our ocean here. We're going to go in between the colors that we made using curvy lines. We are also going to add some white to blue to make a light blue, or baby blue as they used to call it. Isn't it funny? They don't call it baby blue anymore. It's really just light blue. Yeah, cyan. Yep. You got it, John Paul. And so we're going to start adding some of that lighter blue in the back here. And you can still add some kind of throughout. And then if it's looking, too colorful, you can go back with a little more light blue.
Are you just using white right now, Anita, or are you mixing it?
So what I did was I mixed it with some blue. Yep, I pre-mixed it and then added it. And I'm going to go back and now add a little more yellow to my, or I'm sorry, a little more blue to my green so that I now get sort of a bluish green. And you can see I'm using my detail brush in order to make some thinner lines. And then I'm also going to go in with some white. And you may want to add more of the purple blue as well. This is your ocean, so but then our final part on that step will be adding some white to the back part using some thick white, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I just grabbed some white on my small brush, and I'm now dotting on some thick white in the back where the water is, right there. Kind of make it like the top of the wave, and then I'm going to start adding some really light blue in here as well, and even a little bit of some white in the waves.
When you're doing that, Anita, was your blue dry already, or are you doing wet on wet?
So I did a little bit of wet on wet, but now I'm going
Okay.
to leave it to dry
Okay.
so that it doesn't get too muddy. If it's getting too muddy, you want to leave it dry.
The other thing, Anita, I know you add the black. I'll do it tomorrow, of course. I'll do
Uh-huh.
the add a little tinge of black to the blue, but I have ultramarine blue, so I don't have to do that, right? Because I already have a darker blue.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay, okay,
that's a good point. If your blue is very dark, you can just use that dark blue and then just use white to mix with the blue to get lighter shades of blue.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we're going to let that dry. And now we're going to go into our big wave here. And we're going to start doing the same thing using all of those colors. So I'm going to mix a little bit of some more yellow and blue. And I'm going to start making, so I did some really light yellow and blue to get a light green. And I'm starting off first with some of the lighter parts of the wave. So again, what I did was I mixed a little bit of yellow and some blue. Now, if you have green, you can absolutely use green. Like if you already have it pre-mixed.
Which green would you? I have all the greens. Is it sap
I
green?
I
I
would
have
do,
hookers.
yeah.
Sap. Okay.
Sap green sounds good. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna add a little, if you have a little more of like a yellowy green or like a lime green, that would work too.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, light green. Yep, and light green will work. Now, I don't add any of the green to the actual curving part, like the edge here. I just add it throughout here. And again, this is where, if you want to add these colors using your larger brush, you can, but then you also want to go back in. Oh, wow, John Paul, that looks amazing. You are so fast. I love how you did, it looks like the darker blue right here, because we are going to do some more darker blue here. Wow, it's great. And so I'm going to add more of the red and the blue to get the purple. So I guess here again, if you have purple, you could absolutely use your purple. And so I like to kind of start here, adding in thin chunks of purple, wiggling those lines. And again, I don't really go into the really curvy part with these colors because we're going to be adding lots of white to that section. And so now we're creating all the colors that are in the wave. So again, you're adding purple. You can also add lavender, which would be adding some white, because we do have lavender in this. So you would add white to your purple to get the lavender. And so now I'm going to go back in with my smaller brush. And I'm also going to start adding some light blue. So remember to mix up some light blue as well. We're going to be using a lot of the light blue towards the end and also here as we're getting closer to the sky. Oops. Because basically this part that is with the wave here, I'm adding, see how I just made it like light blue? I'm going to go up into it and make it light blue. And then our next steps are going to be adding white, but not yet. We're going to be adding lots of chunky white. for the foam eventually. But you're going to start making very light blue thin lines using your detail brush. So this is where, you're mixing your blues. You can go back, and if you need to add more blue and mix in a little bit of white and get like a medium blue. I just did that now. And you're just going to keep swiping, kind of swiping around. Making it swirl. Till you're happy with what it looks like. If you feel like it's too purpley or too green, go back to basic and use your blue and your white. And your blue and your purple. So now you're trying to make that wave, be curving around. So now I'm literally taking blue and kind of filling in spots of the white of the paper, or white, I keep saying the paper, white of the canvas. Remembering your edges, your corners. And then grabbing some white, kind of pulling it through your waves on top of all those colors. Now, we haven't gotten to this part yet, but we're getting there. Ooh. So see, I'm kind of gently hovering my white on top of all the colors in my wave. And I'm using more white as I'm getting closer to the inside of the wave. And I'm going to now pick up my flat brush, rinse and giving it a good rinse. If you want to get some clean water at this point, I know we've kind of like fussed around with lots of the dark, you can go do that. I'm going to go grab some clean water. Okay.
Anita, when you did the white right
Mhm.
now, was your blue dry? In other words, was it wet on dry?
It is a little bit, yeah, it's mostly dry.
Okay, it's nice
Ex
blending. It's a nice blending. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's mostly dry. It's a might be a little bit wet, and that's what we want.
So when I paint mine, if the blue is still wet or damp, I can put the white over it. It won't be muddy. Is that okay?
So if it starts to feel like it's looking a little muddy, you want to then just let it dry a little more. So, like I'm going like this, and normally it would be really shiny if it's still wet. I mean, it's a little bit shiny because it's acrylic, but you can see that there's no wetness here at this point when we're going to add the sort of dotting of the white. And so I have it on the edge of my brush, of my flat brush, and I'm literally taking white and I'm adding texture. We're going to add it to this edge all the way around. Now, when I get here, I like to take my detail brush and I'm going to literally paint. I'm going to skip spots because, and I'm kind of almost making like almost like bumps. That is the water. Seeing some parts are a little chunkier. So I'm doing the edge of this wave. And if you want, you can kind of do the edge first, where it looks a little bit scalloped, using your detail brush, and then you're going to go back and you're going to start to kind of dot it on. So I'm going to tip my brush a little bit there. And so I'm now going to go a little bit inward. To have that foam come a little bit more inward. Add some more white. And then as I get up here, I'm gonna dot the whole thing, including kind of the edge. Now I still want that blue to shine, to kind of shine through. So I'm kind of skipping around so that that blue is still shining through. And then I'm even going to skip and go into my sky because some of that bubbling, right, the kind of froth is coming out. And then making the curved part here a little frothy around it. I keep dipping the end of my brush into my white. And then, I'm letting the paint dry a little bit on the brush so that it's creating that froth. Maybe I want to take a little bit into the top here, just a little bit, because the froth is really on the edge. And then I'm going to go back and make it a little more frothy here. And then even with my smaller brush, I like to kind of go back in and create some really white clumps of texture a little further in. I even do some dotting here. You can add some a little further inward. Have fun with it. Make a little more here. Have lots of fun with it. This is the texture part. And here again, you can go back to your previous section here. You just have to be careful. And maybe add, if you wanted to fix something or make it a little lighter, you can do that. You just have to be careful because we have the edge here now. But just saying, that is a possibility if you want to do that. And as it dries, you can also go back and add a little more purple if you wanted. I'm going to go back in here. Again, you don't have to. I want to add a little more purple. I'm so curious to see what these look like. I am going to stop my recording and